Our time right now is 8:04. The Supreme Court has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from using the Alien Enemies Act to deport immigrants. The ruling raises questions about presidential authority and due process in immigration law. And this is a setback for President Trump, who's been using the wartime law to speed up deportations. So this morning, attorney Josh Kolsrud is here to talk about what exactly this ruling means and how the courts could be drawing a line on executive power. Josh, thanks for being here this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We know this stems from several Venezuelan men who the Trump administration said were gang members and deported. And there's been an issue on, if this is true or not. This brings us to how the nation's highest court just had this ruling on Friday. It really sends a clear message, although they're not making an exact decision on the law itself.
That's correct. So what the Supreme Court did was they said that we're not going to decide, whether or not the Aliens Enemies Act applies in this case. But what we are going to decide is that anybody who is going to be deported from the country should get some sort of due process rights. So they're saying that the 24 hours notice that the Attorney General's office gave to these Venezuelans wasn't long enough, and that they should be afforded the right to be able to fight whether or not the Alien Enemies Act applies to them and hire an attorney and then have their day in court.
It's just laying out what needs to happen now.
Yeah, so what happens next is that the case is going to be set back down to the appellate court and then back down to the district court to determine, number one, does the Alien Enemies Act apply to these specific Venezuelan individuals? And number two, is the Venezuelan that's being charged in this case a member of Tren de Aragua, which was designated a foreign terrorist organization? So they're putting the burden on the United States to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt.
And with this latest ruling, the big picture here, it also shines a light on the extent of executive power, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, this is the first time that a president has attempted to use the Alien Enemies Act outside of wartime. So it was an act that was originally established in 1798, and then it was used during the 1812 war, World War I, and then World War II. It has not been invoked since that time. So the Supreme Court eventually will have to decide whether or not a president can invoke the Alien Enemies Act and apply it to transnational criminal organizations as opposed to an enemy state like Nazi Germany. So we have a lot of new laws that are going to be determined really, really soon during this Supreme Court session.
I was going to say, when it goes back to the appellate court now, any idea on how long that could take, what the process will look like?
The Supreme Court said in its order that it wants the decision to be done on an expedited basis, because when somebody is deported, it's permanent. Once someone's deported, let's say to El Salvador, the United States loses jurisdiction. So you got to get it right. And so the United States says that there's a national security interest. The defendants say we want our day in court, and the Supreme Court is saying, all right, everybody, let's get this done on an expedited basis.
All right, so just do it quickly, but not an exact timetable is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, that's right. It has to be reasonable, is what they said.
Okay, well, we'll be watching it closely, and I'm sure once that decision is made, we're going to have you back in to just explain it for us better, because you always have a great way of breaking it down so we can understand the law. So thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Josh is going to stick around, because in our next hour, we're going to be talking a little bit about the high-profile case. We're talking about Sean Diddy Combs, and you'll be giving us some analysis on that.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you then.
Appreciate it.